Hi everyone, you are Reddit expose there, enjoy watching.
He found her letter by accident, in an old suitcase that had been gathering dust on the mezzanine for years. An envelope with her name written in her own handwriting, the same small, neat handwriting that he had once recognized even in the dark. Inside is a train ticket. Moscow Street, Petersburg, February 14th, 18 o'clock. Seat 14, car 7. That's the ticket. On that very train, the very day she left. They were supposed to leave together, forever, but she boarded the train alone. He remembers this evening in every detail. 18 o'clock the train started. 18:03 he was standing on the platform, clutching an unused ticket in his hand. 18:07 she stopped answering the phone. He thought she would change her mind. What will be released at the next station? That it was just her way of clearing her head. But the train left, and so did she. Exactly 1,826 days have passed since then. I burned all her photos, but I forgot one picture in my passport. I deleted her number, but I remembered it by heart like a curse. I learned to live without her, but I didn't sleep on my right side if that was where she belonged. And then there's this suitcase. He's on his way to the train station. The 14th of February, 17:55. The same train, the same carriage. Even seat 14 is free. He sits down. He's waiting. 18 o'clock the train starts. 18:03 he takes out her letter. Her handwriting is on the back of the ticket. I knew you would come, but this train is a one-way train. I'm sorry. 18:07 lights are flashing outside the window. For the first time in 5 years, he quietly closes his eyes. As the train sped through the night, he sat by the window, clutching her letter in his hand. Suddenly the conductor stopped next to him. Your ticket, young man. He silently handed over the same ticket. Moscow, Petersburg, February 14, seat 14. The conductor looked at it carefully, then smiled. And you have a return ticket too. Check the pocket. He froze. The inside pocket of his jacket is the one where he always kept the most important things. One more ticket. Street, Petersburgskow, February 15, 6 o'clock. Seat 14, car 7. Why did she buy a return ticket? Maybe she was planning to come back. Maybe she changed her mind back then, or was that her way of saying come back? The train rattled its wheels, and all the unsent messages, all the unfinished letters were spinning in my head. He took out his phone. 5 years of silence. I dialed her number, the one I knew by heart. Challenge. Hello. Her voice. He couldn't speak. Is that you? She recognized his silence. Silence. Only the sound of wheels. I'm on this train too, she said suddenly. Carriage 13. Chapter 7. The last station he ran. Carriage 13. The door was ajar. It's empty inside. There was only one more ticket on the seat. Moscow, Petersburg, February 14th, 18 o'clock. Seat 14, car 7. The same one. Again. He was awakened by a jolt. The train stopped abruptly. Outside the window is an unfamiliar station. Oblivion too. The conductor was standing in the doorway of the compartment with an unusual ticket composter in his hand. The ultimate, he asked. For whom? The conductor smiled. Your ticket says you're going on. But first, check the luggage. The conductor pointed to an old suitcase in the corner, the one where the letter was found. When opened, it turned out to be, top layer, their shared photos, but the faces are blurred in the middle. Tickets for the failed concerts at the bottom. The key to the apartment where they lived rusty but recognizable. The choice is simple, said the conductor. Leave everything here, or take it with you. But keep in mind the suitcase gets heavier with each station. The phone suddenly rang. A known number. You're close. Her voice sounded different. I got the wrong car. I've been looking for you for 5 years. Come out next week. The train started moving. The scoreboard flashed. Next, forgiveness. Chapter 11. The trial of mirrors. There were 7 mirrors in the vestibule. In the first case, they are happy, but this is clearly the past. In the fourth, she is alone crying at the window. In the last, only his reflection, but 5 years older, on the floor in chalk. Choose one. Smash the rest. When he returned to the compartment, a girl of about 7 was sitting there. She holds a familiar bracelet in her hands. Mom said you like puzzles. She held out the box. Inside is a clock that stopped at 18:07. This is your time to think. The girl disappeared, leaving 2 tickets on the seat. Train no. 1 to her, ticket torn in half. Train no. To myself, new and dated. He clutched both tickets and stepped towards the door. At the last moment, the clock in his pocket loudly struck 18:07. Your time is up, the conductor's voice rang out. But he had already jumped onto the platform, right into the embrace of the fog. A cold mist enveloped him, and he woke up in a circular room with 7 doors. There's a plaque on each one. What was, what could have been, what wasn't. What will be. In the center is a table with his old suitcase. This time it opened effortlessly. Inside, a photo album with torn pages, one-way plane ticket and used ring, which he never presented. Her voice came over the speakers, reading their old correspondence. The last message is his unsent text. Sorry, I didn't have time. Suddenly, one of the doors, no, for that which is forgotten, opened a crack. Behind it is a children's room. There's a calendar on the wall with the date of their first meeting. There was her sitting on the bed, the same as it was 7 years ago. You're late, she said, without looking up, but not for everything. The room began to change. The wallpaper peeled off, revealing their shared photos. The clock on the wall was turning backwards. Moments of their past flashed by the window. She raised her face now. It was her on the day of parting. Why are you looking for me where I'm not? At that moment, the door no. 7 What will happen swung open, and he found himself back at the station. But now it was an ordinary suburban train. In his hands is a crumpled ticket with today's date. On the next bench is a girl with a volume of his poems, the ones he started writing after the breakup. She looks up. Did you write Ticket to Nowhere? A train is humming somewhere in the distance. His train. It doesn't matter anymore. The train started moving. The girl with the book, Lisa, the publisher's editor, turned out to be his longtime reader. You know, she said, there's a mistake in your story. She took out of her bag a battered copy of Ticket to Nowhere with notes in the margins. The hero kept the wrong ticket in his pocket all this time. He froze. In his coat pocket he felt a piece of paper, a ticket to the ballet Swan Lake 2 days before their separation. The one they never got to. At the memory station, Lisa suddenly stood up. I'm here. She turned around at the door. Sometimes you have to throw away old tickets in order to find new ones. I left a book on the seat. On the last page is a handwritten chapter that was not in the original. Car 7. Seat 14. She's waiting. But only until 1807. The sign Oblivion Station 2 kilometers flashed by the window. The train braked sharply in an open field. The radio started playing in the empty carriage: and now the song I ordered for you in 2018. Their song. The dispatcher's voice came from the speakers. The ultimate. -1 passengers, get out. When he got out, the train was gone. She was standing in front of him, wearing the same red coat she had left in. There are 2 tickets in his hands. You chose door no. 7, she smiled, so we can start from scratch, but only if we catch the last train. A horn sounded in the distance. Epilogue. New rails. They ran towards the lights together. When the train started moving, he finally made out the inscription on the sign. Moscow is the future. Departure is now. 2 ticket composters jangled in her coat pocket. They jumped into the last carriage when the train was already picking up speed. There wasn't a soul inside, just an endless corridor of compartments with mirrors instead of windows. They are in each reflection, but in different versions of their lives. In one case, they are happy, with a child; in the other, there are strangers passing by; in the third, he is alone, gray-haired, with the same suitcase. This is not our train, she whispered. Her fingers squeezed his arm until the knuckles turned white. A conductor in a 1930s uniform emerged from the darkness. Instead of a face, there was a dial. The hands showed 1806. Your tickets, a mechanical voice said. When they handed over the composters, the conductor laughed with a dry crackle of gears. Overdue. But I have a special offer. From the folds of the uniform, he took out 1 ticket for 2. The inscription read, Moscow is an eternity. The location is shared. Luggage is just memories. The carriage was suddenly filled with shadows. These were all their unrealized selves from parallel lives. The version where he ran after her, then the version where she didn't get on that train, the version where they didn't even meet. The shadows whispered, choose us. Give us the ticket and we will become real. She turned to him. You know it's a trap, right? If we choose one of them, we will disappear ourselves. The train suddenly stopped. The only sign was on at the empty station. End of the route. Next, only your decisions. The conductor opened the doors. The ticket is valid for exactly 1 minute. 1807, and the train leaves forever. Their old house was visible outside the window, just as it had been in its heyday. The true ending. They looked at each other and tore the ticket in half. The conductor howled like a siren. The train shook, turning into a whirlwind of old photographs and letters. When everything was quiet, they were standing on the platform in 2023. I have 2 new tickets in my hands. Her name is to work. 8:30. His name is to the printing house. Submit the manuscript. An old train was burning down on the next track. A young version of them waved from the last carriage and disappeared into the smoke. The torn ticket crumbled into silver dust in their hands. Suddenly, the platform began to change. The tiles under their feet formed the dates of their lives. February 14, 2018. Breakup day July 18, 2023. Today's date. Empty space is where the future should be. A voice came from the speaker. Passengers who are late for their fate, go to the exit to the city. A strange city opened up behind the station. The streets were called their memories. Avenue of the first kiss. Dead end of quarrels. The shop windows are not filled with goods, but with their unrealized dreams. Two people stood in the square, their shadows from the past frozen at the moment of parting. She grabbed his arm. This is not our world. We need to find a real way out. In the clock tower, they met an old man with the face of a conductor. In front of him lay the book of their lives. Most of the pages are empty. Hourglass. The top half is almost empty. Ticket counter. You can buy one ticket, said the old man, but decide which way, backward or forward. They exchanged glances. He saw the answer in her eyes. I took the ticket and wrote by hand, to where we are now. For two. The old man laughed, and the whole city began to crumble like a stage set. The last thing they heard was, finally, someone understood the rules. Epilogue. An ordinary morning, he woke up to the sound of his phone ringing. On the screen, good morning. Your train is at 8:17. Don't oversleep. The familiar city was bustling outside the window. There was an open book on the bedside table, his new manuscript with the dedication, for the real us. When he went outside, the old lady next door smiled. It's a good day, isn't it? It's like a second chance. A train rumbled in the distance. Usual, modern, no secrets. But when he got on the train, the conductor suddenly winked. Seat 14 is free. Just right for you. He got into seat 14, as the conductor said. The carriage was empty, but there was a book on the next seat, the one Lisa had left. There was a new inscription on the cover, for those who decided to stay. He opened it and saw his life, but not the past, but the one that could have been if he hadn't gotten off the train then. The pages were full of photos. They were with her, happy, in different cities. In the margins are her notes. Here you forgot me. Here I was waiting for you. The last chapter was empty. Suddenly the train stopped abruptly. Nothing outside the window. Only the fog and the silhouette of a lonely bench. A voice from the speakers announced, the ultimate. -1 passengers, get out. He remained seated. The conductor, the one with the dial instead of a face, appeared in the aisle. Aren't you coming out? No. Why? Because I already got out once. And lost everything. The conductor nodded slowly. Then the train will continue moving. The train started moving. Suddenly, the door at the end of the carriage opened. She was standing in the doorway. Not a ghost. Not a memory. Real. I was waiting for you on the other train, she said. But he never came. He stood up. Do you know where we're going? He asked. No. But now we're together. The empty platform was strangely familiar. The rusty sign barely read. Last choice station. The smell of coffee and autumn leaves was in the air, just like the morning they first met. She picked up a crumpled piece of paper from the ground. Their old wish list. Go to the edge of the world. Stop being afraid. Learning to forgive. It seems we've only completed 2 of the 3, she chuckled. The abandoned station came to life. The scoreboard blinked. All trains have been cancelled. Reason? Lost passengers found. Their song blared from the speaker, but now it was not a romance, but cheerful jazz. There was a calendar on the wall with a single date. Today he took out 2 ticket scraps from his pocket. One read Moscow, the other read eternity. So, she carefully put them together. Our route is Moscow eternity. He left the control room. He's on his own. Only 20 years older. Don't be surprised, said the doppelganger. All the stations here are crossroads of solutions. He handed over the keys to the apartment by the sea, the one they had dreamed of. Tickets are no longer needed. You have chosen each other, now choose the road. Epilogue. Your rails. They walked out of the station into an open field. No trains, no timetables, just endless rails going in different directions. She took out a compass, and the needle was pointing at it. He checked his own, and the arrow was pointing at her. Somewhere in the distance, the first train of the new day began to sing. But they were already walking to where the rails end, and the present is just beginning. They walked along the rails, which disappeared into the grass, then reappeared under their feet. Where are we going? What is it? She asked. Where there are no schedules, he replied. Suddenly the rails split. There was an old railway sign at the fork. To the past, to what has not yet been invented. She took his hand, and they stepped forward to where there were no arrows. When it got dark, they lit a bonfire from old tickets, unnecessary insults, unsent emails. The flame was surprisingly warm. "Do you hear that?" She listened. Somewhere in the distance, a train was humming, but the sound was getting fainter. "This is our last chance to come back," he said. "No," she smiled. "This is our last fear going away." At dawn, it was discovered. The rails are completely gone. Instead of tickets, there are seeds of unknown flowers in the pockets. There was a city on the horizon that wasn't on any map. They looked at each other and realized that they were now plotting their own route. The city on the horizon was strangely familiar. The streets bore their names, and the cafe windows reflected not other people's faces, but their best moments together. "This is our old neighborhood," she whispered, but what it was supposed to be like. In the central square, instead of a monument, there were two sculptures of them holding one ticket for two. The sign read, "To those who have found the way without maps." In the evening they heard a horn. There was the same train at the station, but now it looked different. The carriages were as transparent as glass. Inside there are hundreds of people who have also escaped from the captivity of the past. On the sign, instead of the number, "Empty seats," the conductor, now with a normal face, smiled. "Are you sitting down? Or will you stay?" They exchanged glances. The answer was in their eyes. In the morning they woke up in a new house by the sea. There was a calendar on the wall with a single date, today. She went to the window. "Look, the rails end right at our garden." He nodded. "Because now we decide for ourselves where they lead." There were two tickets on the kitchen table, clean, without dates or stations. The seeds planted near the house sprouted with unusual flowers. Their petals formed miniature compass needles. Every morning they pointed in a new direction. On Monday, to the sea; on Wednesday, to the mountains; on Friday, just to the gate. One day, the flowers pointed to an old suitcase buried in the ground. They were inside. Their first tickets, the ones from a previous life, the key to a non-existent apartment, a blank sheet with the caption, "Your root." A strange tree has grown on the edge of the garden. Branches are like pointer arrows. The leaves are shaped like miniature tickets. Fruits are crystal clocks showing different times. When they picked the first fruit, they heard a familiar horn. But there were no trains or stations around, just an endless road stretching through fields. People started to appear on the road. A young mother with a locomotive stroller, an old man carrying rails like a staff, a girl blowing soap bubbles in the shape of wagons. They were all walking in the same direction towards the mountain, where the rails went straight up into the sky. "Are we going to? What is it?" she asked. "No," he took her hand. "We've already arrived." In the morning they woke up to the sound of wheels. Their whole house was in motion. The foundation turned into a carriage, the garden into an observation platform. There was a new timetable on the wall. Stops, optional. Speed, just like when I was a kid. Direction, yours. The last chapter. The eternal guides. Now they themselves have become conductors for lost souls, engineers of their own routes, passengers who finally realized that a ticket to nowhere is a ticket everywhere. When new travelers asked, "How do I find my way?" they just smiled and gave me a seed of a railway flower. At night, their house train stopped in the middle of a field. When they got out, they found that the rails were glowing thin silver threads stretching towards the constellations. "It's a map," she whispered. "The rails lead to the stars." There was a one-way ticket on the ground, of any destination. "Departure, when you're ready." A boy in an old uniform approached them. His eyes were like two tiny dials. "Your train is waiting," he said, pointing to the Milky Way. "But please note, there are no return tickets." They exchanged glances. "We don't have to go back," he replied. The boy smiled and crumbled into stardust. The house turned into a carriage of light. The walls became transparent, and through them one could see. The past is like a station slowly moving away in the dark. The future is like new constellations that are not yet on the maps. The present is them holding hands in the flow of time. Their space express made an unexpected stop on a platform that was not on any map of the universe. The inscription on the sign read, "Station of Unfinished Stories." Everything was special here. The lanterns burned with the light of forgotten memories. The benches were made up of unsent letters. Instead of sand, there were grains of lost time on the platform. Translucent figures roamed the platform. A woman endlessly rereading one letter, a man collecting scattered watches, a girl painting the same train on all the walls. "Who are they?" "What is it?" she asked. "Those who couldn't choose," replied the conductor's voice, although he himself was nowhere to be seen. They found their old suitcase at the station. Inside, the photo where their faces started disappearing, tickets with disappearing inscriptions, clock, the hands of which are frozen at 1807. This is our last cargo from the past, he said, closing the suitcase. The conductor, now in the guise of a star cartographer, suggested, "Stay at the station and help others find their way. Continue the journey, but forget all the past. Return to the ordinary world with your memory intact." They chose the fourth option. They took a suitcase and threw it into a black hole above the station. "Our baggage is ourselves," she said. "We don't need anything else." The eternal continuation. Now their train. It can become a book in the hands of a single reader, turning into a bridge between quarreling lovers, to be a dream to someone who has lost hope, and sometimes, on particularly clear nights, astronomers notice a new constellation in the sky, to silhouettes in the window of a glowing carriage speeding along the Milky Way. Their space express began to change. The walls of the carriage were covered with lively patterns, vines from the schedules of forgotten routes, flowers blooming in the form of miniature stations, a web of glowing railway tracks. She ran her finger along the wall and suddenly saw alternative versions of their lives. In one reflection, they stayed at that station. In another, they returned to the ordinary world. In the third, they disappeared into the stardust. "It's not just a train," he whispered. "This is a machine of all possibilities." Suddenly, an old lady cashier appeared with a face like a map of the starry sky. There was a machine in front of her, typing. "Tickets to past lives, subscriptions to parallel realities, one-time passes to other people's dreams are a special fare for you," she said, holding out an empty card. "Fill out the route yourself." The train plunged into a whirlwind of time zones. We raced through the train stations of destroyed civilizations, platforms of non-existent cities flashed by. We passed stations where time flowed backwards in one tunnel. They saw themselves, dozens of versions that made different choices. Everyone waved goodbye to them. When the traffic stopped, they found themselves in his first carriage, the one with the green seats and the smell of iron. "There's a fresh scratch on the glass that she left behind." The sound came from the speakers. "The next station is life." The doors opened. The platform was empty. Only the wind blew fragments of old tickets across it. The real ending. They went out. The train disappeared. "There are 2 coins in my pockets for my next trip. And on the palms there are light tracks from the rails, which will soon disappear." They woke up on a bench in a small provincial railway station. "I have 2 new tickets in my hands." There, with her name back, with his name, the train on the board was marked as local no. 6, and the departure time. It was completely absent. "Are we back? What is it?" she asked. "No," he smiled. "We just found a new station." A delivery boy appeared on the platform with a tray. Hot chocolate in locomotive mugs, jelly pies in the shape of rails, the Sugadnia newspaper with empty columns. "Choose something," he said. "But keep in mind the taste depends on your memories." When the lineup was submitted, it turned out the carriages were made of morning mist, the seats smelled of childhood, the windows reflected not landscapes, but their best moments. The conductor, now in the form of an old teacher, announced, "This train runs only for those who understand that the main thing is not the destination, but the path itself." They found the next compartment. They are younger than themselves. The shadows of the past were discussing something animatedly, gesturing with tickets. As the train pulled away, the ghosts disappeared into the sunlight. "I understand now," she said. "We will always be on this train, even when we get out." There was nothing at the last station. No train station, no signs, not even a platform, just endless rails stretching into the horizon, and a chalk inscription on the ground. "Thank you for choosing our route. You are now part of the legend." When they turned around, the train had disappeared. "There's a single coin in my pocket with a hole to look through time." They tossed the coin with the hole, flying over. She showed Tails, their first kiss under the noise of the train. Eagle, their future grandchildren playing with a model train. The edge is an endless rail stretching into the sky. The coin fell into the grass and sprouted into a railway flower, the one that once indicated directions. An old man in a shabby uniform approached them. His ticket composter left fingerprints on his palms. "For lovers, hearts for singles, question marks for them. It's just a point of your ticket is no longer needed," he said. "You have become regular passengers of eternity." Now they have seen what is hidden. Rails between arguing people, arrows at the crossroads of destiny, semaphores in important decisions. Sometimes they left seeds of railway flowers on such invisible tracks so that others could find their way too. The familiar silhouette of their train sometimes appeared in the rain puddles. If you look deeper, in one reflection, they were sitting in the carriage as young people. In another, old people holding hands. In the third, it's just an empty space that someone has occupied. They understood the main thing. their story will repeat itself in new carriages with other passengers, but it's always about choice and love. And when someone finds a ticket to nowhere somewhere, they will definitely smile, no matter where they are. They woke up in an empty carriage standing at an abandoned station. On the rusty walls are graffiti of their names, painted at different times. A Child's Hand 1987 by Blood 2018 by Stardust 2040 to the conductor whispers in a blurred form. You're stuck in a loop. To get out, find an undated ticket. The train suddenly went back. In the tunnel, the left-hand windows showed the past, the right ones are possible futures, the ceiling reflected the present. They were sitting, holding hands tightly. Choose, a voice from the speakers. But remember, every choice creates a new train. A ticket vending machine appeared in the vestibule. Return to the beginning price, all memories continuation of the path price, uncertainty exit price. Become a legend. They dropped a coin with a hole in it. The machine issued a blank form with a stamp, valid everywhere and nowhere. When the train stopped, the platform was filled with all their versions. Those who stayed together, those who broke up. Those who have never met. Everyone silently pointed to the door with the inscription, for those who have decided to stop choosing. Their train no longer stopped. He became the ghost of the railways, appearing only to those who really lost the way. A girl running away from a wedding, an old man looking for a love lost in the war, a boy who dreams of escaping from an orphanage. Everyone saw them differently. To some, they seemed like young lovers. To some, an old couple holding hands, and sometimes it's just an empty place by the window, which for some reason I wanted to occupy. They learned how to turn into conductors when needed. For the lost, they checked the tickets, leaving the seeds of railway flowers in them. For the desperate, they showed reflections of their best moments in the windows. For the lonely, they sat down silently next to each other until they noticed they're not alone. Their story has become a folk myth. The railwaymen pass it in a whisper. Lovers leave to tickets at abandoned stations, and children believe that if you throw a blank ticket on the rails, it will turn into stars. One day, a girl entered their carriage with an empty ticket. Are you the ones? What is it? She asked. They smiled. No, we are the ones who ride together. And they handed her one ticket for two, her and her fear. The ending that doesn't exist because this train will never stop.